At this point, Tsuchiya no longer looked like a god to him, but instead the devil. Have you seen The Truman Show? It's a movie starring Jim Carrey that came out in 1988. In the movie, the main character Truman spends his entire life in a fake world. Everything around him, his home, his office, the town, it's a fake TV set. All of the people he sees, his boss, his friends, his wife, they're all fake actors. And why is he there? Entertainment. Unbeknownst to him, his entire life is broadcasted for the world to see and tune into on TV. Now you can imagine how he would react when everything was exposed, but no way that could happen in real life, right? Well, it already had. In January 1998, months before the fictional movie The Truman Show was ever released, a man would begin his own twisted version of The Truman Show. At its peak, the show would reach 30 million viewers each week, and the man would be tasked with living off of only what he could win from magazine competition prizes and in complete isolation. And his story was very much real. Now, this might be the most cruel reality TV show that has ever aired. The Contestant on Hulu is a documentary that covers the story of Tomoaki Hamatsu, better known as Nasubi, participating in a Japanese reality TV show that involved him being isolated for over a year and 3 months, living off of only what he could win from magazine competitions. These magazine competitions were completely luck-based, by the way, and without his knowledge, his experience was being broadcasted to millions of viewers in weekly episodes and even live streams at some point. Throughout this grueling experience, he had many dark thoughts that he wrote about in his diaries, and he was pushed to the brink of his sanity. And although the door to his room was never physically locked, he felt psychologically trapped. And all of that created peak entertainment. So let's get into it. Nasubi is originally from rural Fukushima. When he was a child, he was bullied for having a long face, which is where he got his nickname Nasubi, which means eggplant in Japanese. Although the bullying did make it hard for him to initially make friends, he found strength in humor and decided that he wanted to become a comedian. In 1998, when Nasubi was just 23, he applied for a reality TV show called Susunudenpashonen. He was selected randomly from a room full of men, unaware of what the show would actually entail. And when I say randomly, I mean randomly. Like, there was a box with these balls and with numbers, and you just went and you picked one and he was the one. It was a straight up lottery style win. The mastermind and lead producer of the show, Tsuchiya, was already popular for his other works at the time. He was considered a very big deal in the industry. When Nasubi first met him, he said that he felt Tsuchiya was a god. And this power imbalance is gonna come up again and again. Tsuchiya said that through his show, he aimed to capture extraordinary aspects of humanity. Right after Nasubi was picked from that room full of men, he was immediately blindfolded, taken to the room in isolation, and told to strip and begin the challenge. There were no contracts signed. He knew he was being filmed, but he was told that most of it wouldn't air. The room had a table, postcards, a pen, a telephone, a radio, a floor cushion, an air conditioner, and a huge supply of the latest issues of magazines. The challenge would be complete when Nasubi won the equivalent of 1 million yen in competition prizes. And when they told him to strip, they meant it, like strip completely. In the editing of the show, they covered his private regions with an eggplant, which may be the first public usage of an eggplant to refer to, you know. In the first few weeks, he was in good spirits even though he submitted over 963 applications and had won nothing. He thought at some point they'd come into the room and just tell him to stop, but they never did. The producers gave Nasubi crackers to eat in this time period because they weren't going to let him die. And on day 17, he won his first prize, which was fiber jelly. And at this point, the producers stopped giving him food and told him that everything he would eat would just be won from then on. On day 28, he won rice. But this man didn't have a rice cooker. But he was very resourceful. He learned that he could put his rice into his empty fiber jelly container, place it next to the stove with an open flame to heat it up, and make porridge. It was actually a huge celebratory moment on camera when he learned to do this. In all the clips of the show that would air, Nasubi's personality would be beaming. His energy and positivity would be infectious. At this point, the show was pulling in 30 million viewers each week. It's really no surprise how this was able to garner a huge audience. Nasubi had an incredibly likable personality. He would dance around every time he got new prizes, and he would show them off to the camera. A whole week's worth of filming 24/7 would then get cut into 8 hours of footage and then condensed into 6 minutes. And then Tsuchiya would have the final edits. In the final cuts, Nasubi would always be energetic and positive. They'd put in fun text and animated edits on top of the video. But behind the scenes, he was deeply missing his family and thinking more and more about the outside world. He was feeling super lonely. By day 70, he's feeling super weak mentally and physically. He wrote in his diary about how lonely he was and all the food that he missed eating, but all of that footage of him feeling down would not make it into the final cuts. He thought the crew would be on his side, but Tsuchiya specifically told them not to interact with him since part of the challenge was being alone. They even pranked him a couple times on the show. They had a delivery man come to his door with some hot food, but Nasubi didn't have any money to pay him, so he just left. In the way it's shown to the audience, it can be funny with all the text, the animations, but it's so cruel when you think about what's actually going on. At some point, the public was saying that they didn't even believe the challenge was true. They suspected that Nasubi wasn't actually in the room 24/7 and that the whole thing was staged. Tsuchiya then responded by deciding to live stream the show. They had workers on clock to cover Nasubi's private parts with the eggplant, but all of this is in real time, people, so there were definitely some mistakes. So the mistakes would result in Nasubi being exposed in real time without his consent. Past day 100, Nasubi recalls this craziness that was pulled out of him from the challenge. His whole process with the competition prizes had become systematic. At this point, it's long past being some sort of gimmick experiment. On day 155, Tsuchiya and other producers come into Nasubi's room and shine a flashlight into his face when he's asleep. Nasubi's confused. He asks, did he win? And Tsuchiya responds, no. They blindfold Nasubi and put him in a car. He finds out that they've moved him to a new location, presumably because the magazines got a hold of his address. Nasubi says that although the door to his room was never locked, he just psychologically felt stuck. He always felt like it was safer to just stay put and continue with the challenge rather than cause any trouble and switch things up. He would constantly lose the will to escape because he didn't want to lose the challenge. On day 205, they sent in a doctor to do a full checkup on Nasubi, and the doctor concluded that he was in good health. Nasubi had asked the doctor if he thought it was safe for him to continue the challenge, and the doctor kind of just brushed him off and said he's young and he's in good health. But Nasubi felt like it was wrong because he was losing more and more hair and his body felt super weak. Nasubi felt miserable. At this point, he was crying very often. He said he was drifting between sanity and madness, and at this point, he couldn't tell what days of the week it were anymore. On day 261, he started writing hundreds of postcards each day instead of just tens, and at his peak, he was writing 300 to 400 postcards per day. On day 333, Nasubi's total monetary prize wins were at 999,414 yen, just 586 yen away from completing the challenge. And later that same day, the prize that got him to his goal was rice. So they alert him that he won, they blindfold him and take him to Korea to celebrate. The whole time, it feels very eerie. Like they're celebrating him, but then what's the catch? He gets fed Korean barbecue, he goes to an amusement park, they give him kimchi as a gift, but night comes and they blindfold him, saying that they're going to take him where he's going to spend the night. When he opens his eyes, he sees that he's in a room that looks just like the one he was in Japan. He's told to strip and complete the challenge all over again, but now in Korea. On the show, it looks like he agrees to do the challenge almost immediately. But in actuality, Nasubi and Tsuchiya spoke for over 3 hours, just the two of them. Nasubi explained to him how hard everything had been for him to get through this challenge, but Tsuchiya convinced him to continue on. Nasubi said that at this point, Tsuchiya no longer looked like a god to him, but instead the devil. So continuing on from the days counted in Japan, it's day 338, and Nasubi is writing about death very often. He felt like the only way for him to escape the challenge was death, but he couldn't find the courage to do it. He was constantly fighting between sanity and insanity. One thing that is absolutely insane is that in order for him to do the challenge in Korea, he had to learn Korean. He did not know Korean beforehand. And for some context, in case you aren't familiar, Korean and Japanese, two completely different languages. Knowing Japanese is not going to help you learn Korean better. Now, initially, the goal was for him to earn enough monetary value in prizes for an economy ticket back to Japan, but he crushed that goal. And without telling him, the producers decided to move the goal to a first-class ticket. All throughout this, Nasubi still doesn't know that he's famous in Japan and being broadcasted to millions and millions of viewers. Then eventually, he finally reaches his goal again. They wake him up, blindfold him again, and take him back to Japan on a boat in order to keep things a surprise for him. Later, Nasubi explains that he had no idea where they were taking him. He had thought it would be even possible that they were taking him to North Korea. He had no idea how far they were willing to go. So they brought him back to Japan, he's blindfolded, and they're taking him on stage in front of a live audience. They put him into a fake room that was on the stage, and they told him to strip again. Once he was fully naked, they pulled down the walls of the fake room to reveal him in front of the whole audience. They blew up confetti, and the audience was clapping and congratulating him. He was completely stunned and couldn't understand what was going on. They told him right then and there that he reached his goal and that he had been being broadcasted every week. Nasubi explains later that it was just way too much information for him to take in at one moment. 1 hour ago, he was feeling super lonely, and now he's in a room full of strangers cheering for him. So now, after a full year and 3 months of being isolated and living off of competition prizes in Japan and Korea, Nasubi is finally free. The diaries that he wrote in were sold and became bestsellers in Japan and in Korea. And he went on a media tour. He was paid about 10 million yen for his his time on the show and for the sale of his diaries. And that is about $65,000 USD using today's exchange rate. He never pursued any legal action against the producers or the show. Despite public adoration, Nasubi's mental health was suffering. At that point in time, he says he had lost faith in humanity. He did find comfort in reconnecting with his family who supported him through and through. In 2011, Nasubi's hometown of Fukushima was devastated by an earthquake. So Nasubi immediately returned home to help with recovery efforts. Inspired to spread awareness, he decided to climb Mount Everest. He used all the money that he had saved up for his first attempt, but during it, Nepal was hit with an earthquake that caused an avalanche. Many people were hurt and injured, and Nasubi stayed to help others. Later on, Nasubi reconnected with the producer Tsuchiya. Tsuchiya then helped Nasubi raise money for his second attempt at climbing Mount Everest. So Nasubi was able to climb the mountain. And when he did, he spoke on how he felt a human's love and spirit of helping each other is what life is all about, and how he felt immense gratitude for everyone who had supported him. Despite all of the challenges, Nasubi's journey became a testament to human endurance. Today, he works with charity organizations in Fukushima and across Japan. In an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, he said that he enjoys connecting with people in person and helping bring smiles to those in Fukushima and the northeast area of Japan. He said that he has a team of people and family who support him, and he wants to share that even with a little happiness, humans can thrive. And even a little happiness and hope can bring you an abundance of joy in your life. You guys, this was an absolutely crazy story to cover. And even though we think that things like this may never happen again, I've already seen similar concepts to these kinds of challenges on YouTube by some famous YouTubers. Does that say something bad about our humanity? Maybe. In my personal opinion, the production team for this show went way too far. There's definitely commentary around greed, considering their extension to Korea for the challenge. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.